And so they started a new group, which is going to be very anti-communist, called the John Birch Society, and that was created by Nelson Rockefeller. And he bought the Welsh Candy Company so that Welsh could spend all his time running this fake organization. And Revlo Oliver, one of the founders of the John Birch Society, when he found out what was going on, he quit. And so Rockefeller offered him any amount of money if he would stay with them. But he walked out on them.
Are there clear-cut ways of telling whether organizations have been formed or are in league with these crooks? Somebody sent me information about, there's a torch. You'll see it at many universities. A flaming torch.
Yeah.
Does that indicate allegiance to Masonry or B'nai B'rith or something? This torch of knowledge, they call it the torch of knowledge.
Oh, yeah, that's the torch. That's the Illuminati. It's that word for the Illuminati because it sheds off light, and that's why you have understanding and knowledge. And it's all Freemason.
Well, could you find some of your most important universities? I'll give you an example. I think New York University has a torch as its symbol, and so do many universities. Yeah.
You see it all over New York. In fact,
you do.
You see torches on the facade of many buildings in New York that are built in the 1880s and 1990s. There's a torch on the side of the building. But
and that's Freemasonry and Illuminati?
Oh, yes, that's Illuminati, 100%.
Now, Illuminati is Weishaupt, and Weishaupt was given his financing through Rothschild back in the 1770s, 1760s, yeah?
Oh, yes, came right out of Frankfurt, yes.
Now, he was given a task to ship a bunch of teams of people to America. One of them was the New Bohemians. Do you know any information about the New Bohemians and how they came over and set up Masonic lodges on behalf of Weishaupt and the Illuminati?
I don't have any direct information, but this was a trend which is going on. It was at the maximum at that time. They started setting up these community towns and community workshops, and they were all pure Marxist.
Yeah.
And they were Illuminati all the way.
Well, the Marxism, why they love it so much is because all the control is at the top, and top control means that they can eliminate their enemies with ease and control almost like a feudal system where they become the lord of the land and everybody below them has to bend to their will.
Oh, yes, it's a total dictatorship. And what they call the common people, the average person, has no input in any decision whatsoever. He just takes orders, and he's told everything to do.
Well, you know, for the first time, see, they made a mistake, Eustace, and we've talked about this. I think a couple of shows ago we discussed it. They didn't realize when they were putting this internet together just how powerful a source of information it would become. And they've made a real blunder with this thing because it has found a life of its own here. And I think they've made a big mistake because more and more people are waking up around the world to the crimes of this group.
Oh, yes, because I think that most people that know my name today know it because of the Internet. And before the Internet, I couldn't break through anywhere. I was under total silence.
Well, when I remember the first time I talked to you and I told you we were getting 10,000 people to come and visit the site in a day, and you said, wow, that's, we never got that kind of traction back years ago. And I've got friends in London and up in Scotland who have written a lot of books. One of them is a guy named David Pidcock, and another fellow named Colonel Barry Turner. They said, if we got 200 or 300 people back 15, 20 years ago, we were doing good. And he said, but this Internet has really helped us.
Oh, it has. It's just mushroomed. It's a miraculous thing because it didn't exist before. Back in the 50s, you were lucky if you could have a meeting of 5 people in one of the big cities, Chicago or New York. You never got more than 5 or 6 people. And now it's just stuff is just absolutely saturated everywhere.
Well, this was the technological shift in the world that we were all waiting for.
Oh, yes.
So that these crooks could be exposed, yeah?
Oh, yes. Well, it's long overdue, but it's doing its job.
Well, it is, and you and I talked privately before this show that I said to you, it's not happening as quickly as I'd like, but I'm pretty sure these people are losing.
Oh, they're losing, there's no question about it. They have nowhere to go. They're not only losing, but they have no future. They have nowhere to go. Israel is at the end of a rope. There's no question about it. In fact, all that Israel had was their control over the American people and using the American armies and military might. They started off with Israel. You know, the Arabs thought they could just wipe out Israel in no time. And Forrestal stripped the entire military power of the United States to equip Israel, and that's how they beat the Arabs. Because nobody believed that little Israel had a chance against the whole Arab nations. And hell, they just wiped them out with this thing. It's the same thing we're doing in Lebanon. You had the Israelis murdering women and children with the latest fighter jets and the most powerful military force in the world. And they went in and murdered thousands and thousands of them. In fact, they just about wiped out Lebanon entirely.
Yeah, well, see, how do they sell this sickness? I mean, don't the Israelis, because, you know, the Israelis can go on the Internet, too. Aren't they reading how sick their leadership is? Or are they so brainwashed in Israel that they don't know that they're sick as they really are? I mean, come on.
They have no idea. The Zionists have no idea of the fact that they're absolutely criminally insane. And these people have to be eliminated for the safety and security of the entire world.
Well, criminal Zionism is such a cancer, Eustace, and it has metastasized, because if you take a look at countries like Argentina and Chile and Paraguay and Uruguay and Colombia, and they're all controlled by criminal Zionists. Even in Africa, when you go to Zimbabwe, and I mean any place that you go where there's a lot of wealth, or there's drugs, they're involved.
Oh yes, they're running the whole show. And the people who live there have no clue as to what's going on. They don't have any idea who's actually running the show.
Well, I mean, they don't even know in most Arab countries that their governments have been compromised. In Jordan, for example.
It's incredible, because you'd think that somebody would know what was going on, but they seem to have not a clue.
Well, take a look at Jordan, you know, with Abdullah and his father being a Freemason.
Oh, yes.
And you know that Freemason network in the Middle East is set up by the forerunners of World Zionism, which was the B'nai B'rith group, but it was before that. The Old Man in the Mountain and the assassin groups and stuff. These were all inspired through Judaism.
The assassins were always the backbone of the Middle East. It's assassins everywhere. And that's the code of government.
Well, you know, I mean, back in the 60s with Nasser and all the rest of it, and when Saddam Hussein was actually put in jail for an attempted murder, and then he was mysteriously let out of jail. You know, this guy has been an asset from the beginning with the CIA and the Mossad.
Oh, he's one of the most loyal assets. I can't understand how they could put Saddam Hussein on trial for working for the CIA for 34 years.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I mean, he's due a pension. That's the only thing that he's due.
He's due his pension. Well, you know, and you have this. See, and you have these countries like, well, let's take for example Pakistan, with this guy Musharraf. Of course, you know he's bought and paid for.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody out there is.
Well, it's interesting that their military is so loyal to the criminals. Well, you would think that they would wake up at some point and say that we're working for criminal Zionism in the world, not Islam and Muslims. How can they keep such a well-oiled military so duped?
Well, you don't dupe the military. The military obeys the superior officers who pays them. When you go and get your payroll at the end of the month, you do whatever they tell you to.